When you commit to growing old with someone, you share dreams, laughter, and also challenges that arise along the way. Among these challenges, there are delicate moments that few have the courage to talk about openly, such as the difficulty some men have in maintaining physical intimacy as they get older. But what if I told you that this difficulty is often more emotional and psychological than physical, and that understanding this can completely change the couple's life? Imagine your partner's mind as a vast ocean, full of deep feelings hidden beneath the waves of silence and shame. Carl Jung, a great scholar of the human mind, believed that only by facing our deepest shadows can we truly find balance and healing. By understanding this powerful idea, you can transform erectile dysfunction from a taboo subject into a unique opportunity to strengthen the emotional bonds with the one you love. You may not know it, but fear of failure, anxiety, and the pressure to be perfect are heavy emotional burdens that many men silently carry, especially as they get older. Jung teaches us that making room for honest and welcoming conversations, free from judgment, can be the first step to relieving this emotional burden. And you, as a partner, have an incredible role to play in this journey. You can be the person who offers understanding, comfort, and courage so that he can face these challenges without feeling alone. From now on, you will discover how to put all this into practice and help your partner experience a new phase full of intimacy and true connection. But before we dive into this incredible journey, I want to ask you something very important. Subscribe to the channel right now. Like this video and press the bell so you don't miss any transformative content like this. And, of course, leave a comment below with the reality you want to manifest today. I'm curious to know what you'll achieve with the power of absolute certainty. Let's turn dreams into reality together. It is common that when you notice that something is changing in your intimate life, your first reaction is silence. He starts to avoid touching, affection, and spending time together, and you feel that something is wrong, but you don't know how to ask. Carl Jung said that what is not brought to consciousness manifests itself as destiny. In other words, what is not discussed becomes silent suffering, creating an ever-increasing distance between two people who love each other. In the minds of many older men, there is an ingrained idea that virility defines their worth. When the body no longer responds as it once did, shame sets in, and with it, the fear of being rejected. But this fear is not only his. You feel it too, in a different way. You feel that something has been lost, that perhaps you are no longer loved or desired. The truth is that both of you are suffering, each in silence because you do not know how to deal with the change. This is where awareness comes into play. Jung believed that all growth begins when we have the courage to look within. Ask yourself, am I looking at my partner with empathy or with judgment? Judgment often disguises itself as frustration, impatience, or distance. But behind the anger, there is almost always an unhealed pain. When you decide to act with love, something magical happens. The other person feels that they are no longer alone, and that can change everything. A conversation that starts with affection, without rushing or demanding anything, can open doors that have been locked for years. And at that moment, you don't need ready-made answers, just genuine listening and acceptance. It's not about performance, it's about presence. Carl Jung reminds us that the true encounter between two souls happens when both allow themselves to be truly seen, without masks. Your partner needs to know that, even with the changes in their body, they are still deeply loved and valued. This is the first step to healing, transforming fear into connection and silence into dialogue. Often, when we think about erectile dysfunction, the focus is only on the body. But Carl Jung teaches us that the body is merely an expression of the soul. Behind a physical difficulty, there is almost always an emotional root that needs to be understood. And in the case of older men, this root is often linked to a loss of identity, a sense of worthlessness, and a fear of aging. When a man feels that he is no longer as strong, as fast, or as desired as he once was, something inside him begins to disconnect. He may not be able to explain it, but he feels that he has lost his place in the world. Jung called this a crisis of the self, the moment when a person is called upon to reinvent himself, to find a new meaning for his existence. But this process, if done alone, can be frightening and even painful. This is where your role becomes even more essential. You can help your partner rebuild this identity in a loving way, reminding him of who he is beyond his sexual performance. He is a man with a history, with wisdom, with love to give. And this is worth more than any physical proof. Tell him this. Repeat it if necessary. He needs to hear it with his ears, but most importantly, with his heart. Many older men have never learned to express their emotions. They grew up hearing that real men don't cry, don't talk about fear, and don't show weakness. So when something as intimate as an erection fails, they don't know how to deal with it. They shut down and withdraw. Jung would call this shadow repression, an attempt to hide everything that doesn't fit the ideal image they've created of themselves. But what is repressed comes back with more force, whether in the form of anxiety, depression, or even illness. Healing begins when a man accepts that he can be vulnerable, that he can ask for help, that he doesn't need to be perfect. And this only happens when he feels he is in a safe space, a space that you can create. With affection, listening, and patience, you can be that place where he feels whole again, even if he is broken inside. Carl Jung said that what resists persists. When we avoid the problem or force a solution, it grows silently. That is why, when trying to help your partner, the way forward is not to insist, pressure, or solve it for them. The true path begins with acceptance, that simple but powerful gesture of being there without demanding, without judging, just listening with an open heart. Sometimes he may say that everything is fine, even when it is not. He may seem distant, cold, or even angry. But behind this lies a soul in conflict who has not yet found the courage to open up. Welcoming, at this moment, means showing with actions that you are there. With a kind look, with a gentle word, with a touch that does not demand anything in return. Small gestures that say, "You do not have to go through this alone." True listening goes beyond words. Jung believed that the unconscious communicates through symbols, emotions, and gestures. This means that often, even he or she cannot clearly explain what your partner is feeling, but you can notice it in the details, in the way he or she looks at you, in the way he or she answers, in the silence after a simple question. Listening is perceiving with sensitivity. It is paying attention with love. And when he finally speaks, and he will if he feels safe, don't interrupt, don't correct, don't try to fix it. Just listen. Let him pour out what's been bottled up for so long. Because in that moment, what's most healing is not the advice, but the freedom to be heard. And when a man feels truly heard, something inside him begins to reorganize. It's as if he recognizes himself as a whole human being again. This process can be slow, and that's okay. Jung said that the soul develops in a spiral, not a straight line. Sometimes progress will come in small steps, but each step is a victory. Each time you welcome, listen, and understand, your partner feels stronger to face what once seemed impossible. Healing begins there, in the deep emotional connection that only mature love can build. Over time, a couple's intimacy goes far beyond physical touch. It resides in the welcoming gaze, in the comforting silence, in the affection that doesn't need words. Jung said that true love is the kind that integrates the other person as they are, with their strengths and weaknesses. Therefore, rebuilding intimacy doesn't mean going back to how things were before, but creating a new way of being together, more conscious, deeper, and more genuine. It is important to remember that erectile dysfunction can often be cured or treated, but before that, it requires understanding. There are natural ways, changes in habits, therapies, and even safe medications, but none of them work without a solid emotional foundation. Healing is not just medical, it is relational. When a man feels safe, loved, and accepted, his body begins to react differently. So embrace this moment as an opportunity. Explore new forms of affection, pleasure, and connection together. Rediscover the unhurried touch, the kiss without intention, the hug that says it all. Sexuality in old age can be even richer, precisely because it is no longer tied to standards or pressures. Jung talked about individuation, a process where each person finds their deepest truth. And this truth can completely transform a couple's love life. Remember, your partner's value is not in what he can or cannot do with his body. It is in his presence, in his love, in the history you have built together. Value this. Reinforce this. Tell him out loud how important he is, how safe you feel with him, how your relationship is more than just a moment in bed. And the more he hears this, the more he will free himself from guilt and fear. When love is mature, it doesn't need to prove anything. It just is. And at this stage of life, the greatest gift a couple can give each other is this: the freedom to love without conditions. Jung taught us that we are whole when we accept who we are completely, with light and shadow, with strength and fragility. And this also applies to couples. Whole when they accept each other in all stages of life. When Jung spoke about the healing process, he said that it was not something that came from outside, but from within. And this also applies to this delicate moment in a couple's life. There is no medicine, a magic formula, or a quick fix that will change everything. What really changes is the way we look at each other. Our presence, our daily choice to love even when the other person is hurt, insecure, or silent. What your partner needs most right now is not judgment, but understanding. He needs to feel that, even when his body fails, he is still worthy of love, respect, and affection. Jung said that human beings need to be seen, not with the eyes, but with the soul. And you can be that gaze that welcomes and enlightens, even when he cannot express in words what he feels. Erectile dysfunction is actually just the visible sign of a deeper process, a call for you, as a couple, to look at each other with more truth. An invitation to start over in a new, lighter, more real way. It is as if life were offering you a new chance to rediscover yourselves, not just as partners, but as two human beings in full transformation. There is no shame in changing, in asking for help, in starting over. Jung reminds us that only that which is accepted with love can be healed. Therefore, when you choose to stay, listen, welcome, and support, you are opening the doors for healing to happen. Slowly, in due time, but deeply. And in this process, both of you grow, both of you become stronger, more aware, and more united. In the end, true intimacy is not about what you do behind closed doors, but about the courage to bear yourself emotionally in front of the one you love. If you can get through this moment with love, you will come out of it even more connected, more whole, more alive. As Jung said, those who look outside dream, those who look inside awaken. This may be the most beautiful awakening of your life. Sometimes life's greatest challenges appear when we least expect them, and that is when we discover the strength we have within us. Erectile dysfunction in old age doesn't have to be an end, but rather a new beginning. An invitation from life to look more carefully, with more love and more truth at those around us. When we see the other person with their soul, as Carl Jung taught us, we realize that healing goes far beyond the body. It begins when love becomes a bridge, not a barrier. Throughout this video, you've seen that silence can be broken with empathy, that fear can be welcomed with affection, and that intimacy can be rebuilt with simple but genuine gestures. Your partner may not be able to put into words how important this is to him, but believe me, the support you offer now has the power to change not only his day, but the story of both of you. Mature love does not depend on perfection. It is fueled by acceptance, care, and presence. When you choose to stay, even in the face of pain, you are saying with your actions what words cannot express. You are showing that a man's value goes far beyond what his body does or does not do. And this can be the seed of a new phase, lighter, truer, more connected. Perhaps, after all this, you will realize that the dysfunction was not a problem. It was simply a call to something deeper, more beautiful, and more human. If you go through this journey together, with courage and affection, you will emerge from it transformed. As Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And now that you have lit that light, let it guide your path from here on out. If this content touched your heart and helped you see things more clearly, don't leave without leaving your mark. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments what you feel or are experiencing at this moment. Your story can inspire and strengthen other people who also need to hear this. And together, we will continue spreading knowledge, love, and transformation. Until the next video.